If you clicked on this video, you probably want to be able to do this.
Garage.
One enemy remaining.
In this video, I'm going to be going over all aspects of taking gunfights that you need to know to be able to frag out in your games. Let's start off with the obvious, aim. It's Valorant's most praised mechanic after all. Aim can be divided into two categories, static and dynamic. Static aim is the more important of the two. Static aim refers to where your crosshair is before an enemy appears on your screen. Keep your crosshair at head level, blah blah, you heard this a million times, but there's more to it than that. Keeping your crosshair at head level is an elementary level of static aim. More advanced levels of static aim include considering different pieces of information to adjust where your crosshair is accordingly. Is the terrain at different elevations? Do you have prior information on the enemy? Your expectations of where the enemy could be should match where your crosshair is looking. Static aim, when done properly, helps your crosshair be closer to the enemy's head before the fight even starts. The other type of aiming, dynamic aim, is what most people think of when they hear good aim. Dynamic aim is the correction of your crosshair from where it is to the enemy. Dynamic aim helps correct mistakes. The worse your crosshair placement is, the bigger the flick you have to make. Good static aim makes it so you have to rely less on dynamic aim. Other than the basics of static aim, which are aiming, head height, and knowing the different elevations and common angles of maps, there's not too much you can do to train static aim. The rest of it comes from Gamesense, which I'll cover later in this video. Dynamic aim, however, you can very much train and warm up. Actually, you're probably already doing this. Bots in the range, deathmatches, aim trainers. These are all mainly training dynamic aim. Before I continue, I want to define warming up and aim training because sometimes they're thrown around interchangeably. Warming up is spending a couple minutes making sure your aim feels crisp before hopping into a game. Aim training, however, are longer sessions which push your limits with the objective to improve. Usually, if done at all, aim training should happen after your session so you don't fatigue yourself before you play. I'm not going to give my routines because this video would be too long. However, I can give basic guidelines to follow. Warm-up should be something light just to get you into the flow of the game. Warm-up shouldn't take too long either. Aim training, on the other hand, should make you feel uncomfortable. If you're breezing through your aim training routine, it means you're not pushing yourself enough. Gunfight hygiene refers to how you shoot your gun depending on the situation. Once again, a certain banana made a video that covers proper gunfight hygiene for every gun at every range, and I'll link it down in the description. How you should shoot is actually pretty intuitive. Why would you spray at long range? You're just praying that one of your bullets hit. Tapping and being accurate gives you a better chance at getting the kill. We all know this in theory, but in practice it's a lot different, isn't it? Performance anxiety, desperation, nervousness, all sorts of reasons induce panic and causes not to practice proper gunfight hygiene. To combat this, I recommend doing DMs and only allowing yourself one bullet. If you miss, you have to let the enemy kill you. This attempts to create pressure to get yourself used to it. Along with that, you work on your first bullet accuracy. The mechanic that goes right with gunfight hygiene is movement. To start off, if you're crouch spraying every single gunfight, you're doing something wrong. I'm not saying you should unbind crouch. Crouching is useful in some situations, just not every single gunfight. The next part of movement that I'm going to address is counter-strafing. You actually don't need to counter-strafe in Valorant. By counter-strafe, I mean pressing the opposite movement key to stop. For example, if you're moving left, you'd press D to stop. Yeah, don't do that. There's no difference and it's just an extra input your brain has to process. Now what you should be doing is throwing in strafes between shots. You may be asking, how would I know the timing for my strafes? This is where gunfight hygiene ties in. Any downtime in between shots, you should be moving to make yourself harder to hit. Prime example would be strafing left and right in between vandal bursts. While keeping your mechanical skill up to par is a key component of fragging out, an equally important part to winning gunfights is knowing and abusing the advantages. The three in order of how big to small of an advantage they give you are gun type, off angles, and angle advantage. The first one's pretty simple. Gun advantage is exactly what it sounds like. If you have a better gun for the situation and you take a fair 1v1, you have better odds at winning the gunfight. A Vandal versus Ghost at medium range, the Vandal has better odds of winning. A Judge versus Vandal at close range, the Judge has better odds. You get the point. The second one is off-angle advantage. Being somewhere where your opponent doesn't expect you gives an innate advantage. You can expect them to appear at a specific place, a certain angle or choke, while they are pre-aiming common angles and don't really know where you are. You only have to click when they appear on your screen, while they have to register you're playing somewhere weird, move their crosshair accordingly, and then click. Off-angle advantage can be used to almost guarantee winning odds, or an attempt to overcome the enemy's gun advantage. The last one is angle advantage. This one you shouldn't have to think about and should be subconsciously positioning yourself to give yourself the most angle advantage. So what is angle advantage, you may be asking? Well, it's pretty much how far you are from an angle opposed to the enemy. The further away you are from an angle, the sooner you'll see the opponent. Remember, just because you can't see the enemy doesn't mean they can't see you. It's that simple, really. Walk up to a corner of a wall in real life. You can't see shit, but your arm is going to be visible around the corner. The exact same applies in Valorant. While everything I've mentioned is what you need mechanically to frag out, it doesn't mean anything if you're lost as fuck. Working on all of these mechanics is an attempt to get marginally better odds and faster aim to win more gunfights. None of that matters if you're not even looking in the right place. I've had sessions where during my warm-up, my aim felt super crisp, but when I got in game I had no idea what was happening, and my KD did not reflect my mechanics. Gamesense is a very broad term that gets thrown around in the Valorant community. There's no overnight method I can give you that'll help you grow your game sense. Game sense comes from self-criticism, odd reviewing pros, and just playing more games. We do guides for all things Valorant related on this channel, so subscribe to be alerted of our next upload. Also, it makes me happy.